It's rolling.
Just go. Sounds like your orange. Okay. Hey everybody! I'm so excited to give this talk. Judy requested that I record it, so I have that going for her. Hi, Judy. And I'm so excited to do this because I felt called to sign up for this presentation. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. And then shortly after that, I just felt like I just knew. I was like, oh my God, I have so many things I want to share. So luckily, yeah, I was thinking along the lines of you, Professor Tony, and wanted to share some things you might not have considered, other viewpoints, rather than referring to the Bible, which I don't know as well as many of you guys here. So I wanted to contribute what I know. And so let me go to the next slide. So this is a phrase that really speaks to me. All acts of love and pleasure are my rituals. And this is spoken in a poem that's often given during lunar ceremonies. Today's full moons. It's kind of perfect. And to really honor the goddess, honor the feminine in all things. And it's the idea that we're here on the planet to live and to love and to enjoy our experiences here. And this originates with Doreen Valiente. And so that's just a phrase, I just really love that, but I wanted to also balance it with another phrase called the Wiccan Reed, which is basically means if it harms none, do as you will. So there's an ethical container for that, enjoying all acts of love and pleasure, but you might not realize that just looking at this. So I wanted to give the context of these two as sort of when I was creating this presentation. There's so many different issues that I could talk about. It could be hours and hours. So what I'm really looking at, what does it mean to have a balanced sexuality, and what does that look like, and what models do we have? Because I think looking at the world, we're missing a lot of those healthy models. And so wherever someone is on a balance, what is the goal? What is the goal? So, all right, so something I'm really inspired by is the chakra system, which comes from Hinduism. And so each of these energy centers in the body represents a different kind of power that we have. And so traditionally, the sacral chakra, which is in the area where you would think sexuality would be, that is what people consider to be the sexual center. But it's important to know that everything is connected. Everything is a part of a stream of energy running through the entire body. So if somebody has a sexual issue, actually it could be more complex than that. I have a book that you guys can look at where they kind of create these grids where you could look at somebody who has a certain background, and maybe there's sort of an adjustment needed all along their entire body and system. For instance, if somebody has experienced a trauma, maybe they don't feel safe at that very root of their being. And that's going to, affect a lot of things in their life, not just their sexuality. Maybe somebody is not feeling, because this, we're going to talk about, there's more meanings to the center as well. Maybe not able to speak up for themselves. Or maybe somebody is so full of worries on a mental level that that's causing issues there. So I just wanted you guys to consider that oftentimes we kind of dissect things and look at, okay, well, let's just look at this area. But this system is really encouraging us to think holistically at a person on all levels. It could really be related to a lot of things. And for all of us serving people spiritually, it could be related to their spirituality too. I'm going to talk about that a lot. So this is, okay, so now that you know that it's not just this one chakra, we'll look at this more in depth on that one chakra. So this is the symbol of it right here. And it's known for a lot of things. It's kind of like messy. So I feel like this presentation is going to be a little bit messy because I'm going to be hopping around. But it's perfect because while the root chakra, the very first, it's known as the first chakra, it's like the foundation of being here on the planet, like having your essential needs met. When you get up to the second chakra, you start to get out of like polarity, like that's just, black and white. Like that it gets a little bit more complicated because it's about more of like a flow, like water is the element of this. Like you want to have movement, you want to have flexibility. You know, if you think about if someone is very, very rigid in life and lots of changes are happening, they could be shattered. Whereas someone who's flexible and can move around, they can just go with it and they can flow. So you want to be honoring of a need that humans have to move physically and emotionally, to be feeling their feelings, to be enjoying being in a human container, in a body, and everything that means. And it can be messy because we can feel lots of things at once. We're super complicated like that. And we should be, because that's us being a full human being. And then also feeling it, getting in touch with our desires and our needs. You know, a lot of people have been very disappointed in their life, and that can shut them down. So that could cause sexual issues. It could cause issues all over the place in your life. And then having a healthy relationship with pleasure. And notice that this could go either way. Like someone could be shut down, or someone could be excessive. Like someone could be like addictive. You know, so where somebody is going to relate to what they would need. You know, maybe somebody needs to be still more. Maybe somebody needs to be more active and move around. So it depends on the person. You know, we have to be really listening to where someone is and meet them there. It's not going to be just a one-size-fits-all solution. And the enemy here, I think, is really important, is guilt. And, you know, and I feel like shame is also kind of related to that. So, you know, as listeners, we just want to make sure that we're being very open and just, you know, digging. Because remember, like, this is connected to their whole system. So if something is going on, and with their sexual issues, like, what else is happening? What else is happening emotionally? If there's an addictive thing going on, like, what are the emotions they're trying to numb? You know, get curious about what's the real reason, you know, what else is going on. Okay, so I want to switch to the tarot. The tarot is a totally different system, but it seemed really important to include here. So my favorite way of interpreting this text is to encourage my friends to look at the picture and think about what pops out at you. Like, what do you notice as being a major thing in this card, in this art? What do you feel like is important to take in? If this was a work of art, say, and you're going to describe it to somebody, what would you think the theme of it is, or the message or the meaning of it is? Because you can see in this card, which comes from the Rider-Waite Tarot, it's a very traditional type of thing. It's now everywhere because it's over 100 years old. You can just take the art. But it really has a lot of, you can see biblical themes, right? Because of the snake here and the apples, and it's got like an angelic figure. So I'm just gonna like show you this version, and then there's another version. This is coming from my favorite tarot deck that I grew up using. So this is a totally different picture, and you can look at the difference. And this is a little bit more drawn from Greek mythology, so you can see that he has to make a choice between all of these goddesses, and unfortunately his choice has a consequence, and it causes a huge war. So whoops. So it does speak about, you know, consequences, how powerful attraction and love is, and it also is connected to commitment. And if you think about sexuality and commitment in relationships, like that's, you know, there are a lot of people who need to be aware of the consequences of their actions, and also might be trying to question, like, is this the right relationship to be in forever? And that relates a lot to this issue as well. But I wanted to speak about okay, so we have the obvious meaning of lovers, like two people in love, or two people in a sexual relationship. But there's a spiritual element to this, which is known as the Great Rite, which is more of a symbolic representation of the masculine and the feminine within all things. So there's a traditional ceremony that goes across a couple traditions in mystical communities, where people will just symbolically maybe have like a cup or a sword, and it's about celebrating the union of the masculine and the feminine in the world. And maybe back in the day, that was a little bit more of a realistic interpretation of that, and the field of the fertility rate. But now most people just see it as human beings And as a part of all of creation, you have to honor the feminine and the masculine, and without them, you don't have everything. And that doesn't mean to say it has to be like heterosexual relationship, but it's just about being a full person and being engaged fully with all that is. And so we can see this in the culminating card of the tarot, which is like the last card, is the world. And look at this person, has a female head and a male head. So that's one person embodying both of these energies. And you can also see here, there's a snake eating its tail, which is a sign of infinity. You know, what ends, begins, endings and beginnings. You have all of the 4 elements here, so everything is incorporated. You know, when we're having a mission, we need to draw from all of our strength, all of our potential. We need to be open-minded to everything out there in the universe. So this is really a lesson of how that masculine and feminine is essential to everything that we want to do, having balance. And then I was looking for another picture of the snake, and this popped up in my Google search. Quote by Carl Jung, the commonest dream symbol of transcendence is the snake. I thought that was really interesting. So I'm not an expert on Jung, but I am very drawn to women's circles where they share more about the snake. And if you're familiar with a lot of goddess imagery, the snake is a really common symbol to be associated with the divine feminine. Although, you know, I met someone today who was saying that in her tradition of hoodoo, she was saying there's a male snake and a female snake that create everything in the universe, was their tradition. But what I was told in a Red Tent event, which is an event to honor women and all of the things that women go through, kind of separate from the world, and to celebrate being a woman, we were told about the reason why the snakes are often associated with women is because women regularly shed their skin just like snakes do. And I was like, wow, that is, I didn't even think about that. It's so obvious to me now. But again, it's like the enemy of the guilt and shame in our culture around body and around sexuality and around our parts and the things that happen is negative. You know, it really is, you know, I think it's negative, and I think that we need to let it go. So I just wanted to share that everything can be sacred, and there's probably some kind of tradition out there to make it sacred. So in this case, that's that. And then shedding your skin is a very healing act. You know, as we go through transformations, we need to leave behind the old. We need to just move on. And Carl Jung said this is a huge symbol of resurrection, which I thought was really nice as well. So let's see. Okay, so the snake is also a totem animal, which is Native American traditions believe that, according to my understanding, which is, you know, I'm sure limited, but that each animal has a different kind of medicine. And so there's different kinds of snakes that all have their different meanings as well. But generally, snakes are very, very powerful medicine, very powerful in healing. In fact, I usually, if somebody tells me about a dream and they have a snake in it, I think, oh, it means something about healing. And also, they really have a connection, according to Ted Andrews, who's an expert on this topic, exploring the mysteries of life. So, like the secrets, you know, and that's why he says a lot of negativity is directed towards snakes, because it's just very edgy to be revealing the secrets, and maybe people don't want their secrets known, and but it also has become a symbol of protection from being persecuted for your spiritual beliefs. It's also associated with creation, fertility, transformation, sexuality, kind of like what I was saying about like the snakes that create everything. There's a lot of myths about that kind of thing. And then he says a guide for fire medicine, which is transmutation. You know, like you put things in the fire and they become fire, they become something totally different. So when you have, you know, when somebody is drawn to work with snakes, it's probably a sign that there's a lot of transformation and shedding going on in their life. But in that, there's always a core that is the same. Your spirit is what carries over. And so it's connected to all it is, the cosmic consciousness that we're all together, we're all equal, and in a way we're all one. And Ted Andrews says it signals a great transition in life through new opportunities and changes. And we all have a complicated relationship to change, which I think is why we have a complicated relationship to snakes. So And you also know that, snake poison can kill people, but venoms are also often created from snake poison. In that case, it's a cure. So what's interesting is that the caduceus is a sign we have on all our ambulances, and it's a symbol of the healing angel Archangel Raphael, as well as Hermes. And so it's funny too because in Hinduism there's a tradition of the Kundalini, which is the channel between all of those chakras I mentioned, and it is considered to be like a snake. And there's that polarity again. It's like you're not quite just the poison or the cure. It's like both. It's like having everything together, not rejecting pieces of it. So I just want to give my thoughts about this whole theme that play is really important. I think that whether you have an issue in sexuality or somewhere else, like having the severity about it is not helping. So having play, having a sense of humor, being able to make light of things sometimes is helpful. At least in your life, having some space for play is really, really important. A lot of people are working really hard and don't have breaks, and that can definitely impact their sexuality. Also, everything is interconnected. This is a really important theme. And it's ambiguous. You don't have to make a moral judgment one way or another. A lot of the time, you can hold space to explore the gray area. And then this really has to do with accepting yourself fully. Nobody's perfect. We all have impulses. Doesn't mean that we act on them. We all have feelings. Doesn't mean we have to turn them into actions towards another person. But we have to accept that that's who we are, and that's what being a human being means. There's no sense in beating ourselves up about it all the time. So when you accept yourself fully, then you're in a more receptive space, and you can allow opportunities to come to you because you feel like you deserve them. So that's an important theme from my work with spiritual laws and being able to create change in your life. Is if you accept yourself, you're going to allow yourself to change more easily and less painfully. And then every person has both darkness and light, and sometimes our darkness has light within it. Like when we really come to accept ourselves, then maybe we can achieve greater things than we could if we just blocked it out and said, oh, that's not me. I'm not selfish, or I don't speak up about myself, like I don't brag about myself. Maybe there's something that you see in someone else that you dislike that is a place where you can grow, and you can actually put that in your toolbox for sometimes, like when you need to complain, or it could be useful. And then creativity is so healing because it uses this whole different side of ourselves. It allows us to express our emotions, and it can really allow you to find connections and roots and insights that can help you in your healing process, as well as the people you work with. And then we all, as a society, need to have a better relationship with our body, with our feelings. And even in an academic environment, it's very easy to be very up in our head. So remembering that in issues of sexuality, it's physical as well as mental, but all of us can have more profound spiritual experiences by being more connected to our body. And when you are connected, it looks like this. It's awesome. Like this picture I think really is great because I can tell that it's just a beautiful, ecstatic experience, meditating in this place of nature. Everything's aligned. And again, it's not really about sexuality in the way a lot of us think about it, but I think that it's kind of what the Holy Longing is talking about, this spiritual channel. And these tools come from the book Western Mind, Eastern Body, where it's a combination of the chakra system with psychology. So she lists all kinds of different tools here, which I can go into if you guys have questions. But inner child work is one I wanted to kind of pop out. That we think of sexuality as being very adult, but the place of the sacral chakra, of creation, of sensuality, of the body is really connected to childhood. So as adults, we can come into that place of play and enjoying and following our, just kind of doing what we want to be doing and not thinking so much and shutting ourselves down, or like if you think of like a teacher like telling a kid what to do and kind of training them to do different things, we don't want to have that in our head if somebody is trying to be in the moment in their body. So having a better connection to your inner child and allowing yourself to play can really be related to this topic as well. So So, and again, like if somebody is starting with addiction, they're going to want to be like curbing some of those impulses. But if someone is shut down, they're going to want to be like allowing themselves to have more. If that makes sense. Okay. So I have some recommended books for you guys. If you're interested in these topics, Debbie Ford is an expert on the shadow. Dark Side of the Light Chasers is an amazing book, and then she combined with Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson in the book The Shadow Effects, which I have with me. And then Eastern Body, Western Mind is awesome if you're interested in chakra work. It's just so rich with psychological insight. Interested in tarot, that's a good book. To introduce everything about animal totems, any animal you see in nature, you want to know what does this mean? It's really interesting food for thought. Brene Brown is an ex-shame researcher, so she has an amazing body of work around shame and vulnerability and how healing vulnerability is. And vulnerability is really bearing your soul, bearing your emotions to another person. It's very, very healing to release guilt and shame. And then creativity, Julie Cameron. This book changed my life. Really good. Okay, so these are the references I did not mention, and whew, that was my whole presentation, you guys. So thank you so much. Do you guys have any questions about anything? I have so much stuff.
You had on one of the slides you had did you say something about the history of the tarot card?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, and we talked about play. These cards actually began as like a part of a game several centuries ago. They draw a lot on like the Renaissance tradition of kind of referring to classical works of art. So that's why a lot of the imagery has both Christian images, but also classical imagery as well. So it wasn't originally used for anything deep, it was just a game. But then after a couple, I think about the 19th century, became more associated with spiritual circles and divination, which is asking questions and wanting to get information about the future. And so there's lots of different traditions. Some people will have a certain meaning and say, like, this is what it means. I have a big book, it's like this big, you can look into that. And it's a great place to start, but I really feel like there's something to be valued about, like I asked everyone else to do, is like, look at the card and what is your first impression? Like, what is your first instinct? Because as we're talking about the sacral chakra, I feel like it's a very feminine chakra, and that it's very receptive, like very much about receiving the insight, and then you move on to taking action on it. But so I think that for me, that's an okay way to interpret it, is to see how it strikes you, and then for you it has meaning. And sometimes if someone comes into your life, you have similar themes going on, and you can share with them and gain further insight from that as well. And if you're really interested in the history of the tarot, what was I going to say? Annabelle Wren, Holistic Tarot Integrated Approach, is a really nice thick chapter on it as well, if you want to learn more.